Aloha guitar class. This is lesson 6. Today we're going to talk about two-part harmony. As you can see over there, Ode to Joy. This is the first thing that we're going to be doing. But before we start that, let's do a little bit of review, and I want to talk about like where you should be at in the course and do some assessment on that, or you should do some self-assessment is what I mean. Okay, well, we have assignments that I assess you, but also you can assess where you're at compared to what I'm about to tell you. So, first thing is that you should have 3 scales memorized. So, C major, G major, F major, be able to play those from memory without looking at the paper. So no peeking at that paper when you play those, and you should have no trouble at all doing that from memory, and not just the notes but also the fingerings as well. Okay, so let's do C major. Okay, the C major scale. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if you have no problem with that, you can go up and down that scale with the down picking without too much trouble. What you should do is you should try doing the alternate picking, which you just alternate the direction of the pick. So the first note is down, and then the next note is up, the third note is down, and so on. But that's that's almost impossible to do unless you first memorize the scales. So that's why this is so important, because once you memorize it, there's a lot of other things that you can do to take the thing to the next level. Okay, and that's the main thing that you want to be able to do, is to cross pick or alternate pick the scale. So down, up, down, up. Let's try that one time, a little slower. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, up, 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 down. Okay, and let's take a minute to look at how we're holding the guitar. All right, so your arm should be kind of on the top of this thing, like this, not over, or a little bit over is not good either, right? You want your arm resting on the top of the guitar with your shoulder very relaxed. Okay, and then as you bring this over, um, it'll be over the hole up here on the top strings. It will be kind of closer to the fingerboard, and then as you go down, it will get more towards the center of the sound hole. Okay, so, or at the least, it should be over the hole. Everybody's guitar is like a slightly different size, but it should be over the hole and not, back here, and not over the fingerboard. Okay, the pick should be held with just the thumb and the index finger. Be careful not to get any of the other fingers involved in the holding of the pick. All right, now when your right hand, this has to do with the right hand relaxing, and when your right hand is relaxed, there's some separation there between this finger and this finger, right? So you see, like if I shake it out and relax the hand, when it hangs there relaxed, the fingers separate, right? So if you look at your hand and it's like this, that's not relaxed. And if it's like this, that's also not relaxed. And you know, anything like that looks like claw hand or kung fu grip or something like that, that's no good, right? So you want to shake the hand out, shake it out, and then that's how it should look, all right? Nice and relaxed, strumming, picking, whatever. It's just like that, and the fingers shouldn't be balled up and they shouldn't be extended, all right? Should be somewhere in between, okay? And that's how we build kind of technique and speed over time, is by trying to keep that hand as relaxed as possible. But, you know, you want to keep a good grip on your pick, which is why, you know, I like this pick. It has some grip tape here. And it's, you know, I use like extra heavy type picks. Your pick shouldn't be anything except thin. Thin is no good. So medium, heavy, extra heavy, that's good. All right, let's do the G scale. G scale. All right, like I said, first you want to down pick it until it's memorized real solid, and then try the cross picking. Okay, G, a 2, 3, 4. Okay, make sure you're using the right fingering. So when we're down here in this position, it's index finger on the first fret, middle finger on the second fret, ring finger on the third fret, pinky on the fourth fret. Okay, so when you hit that 4 on the D string, make sure it's with the pinky, and then come over with the middle finger. All right. In the C scale, when we go up to here, we go into this position 5, 6, 7, 8. Index finger on 5, ring finger on 7, pinky on 8. That's really the only time that we deviate from the first position, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, like so. Okay, that makes it simple. F, let's do F. A little slower because this one's the one that is the newest scale that we're working on. Okay, slower. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, watch out. The funny thing about this scale is there's no open B string on there. It's just 1 and 3 on that string, no 0. Okay, and this is an important pattern, the F pattern. Now let's talk about the left hand. We talked about the right arm and the right hand and the pick and all that. Left hand, the thumb should be up here. Okay. Um, so it's kind of, you're balancing between the left hand and the right hand. Okay, a guitar is very well balanced, right? It has this saddle, it sits on your leg, and the weight of the right arm goes on there, and then the weight of the left arm goes on there, right? The shoulders are very relaxed, guitar is balanced. Okay, I'm using a footstool. I always use a footstool because, you know, helps me keep my back a little straighter, gets my guitar or whatever instrument I happen to be playing, elevated, right? You don't want it. So without the footstool, it's down here. With the footstool, it's up here, which makes things better mainly for the left hand. Okay, um, and you know, you can get that up even higher, and that's really good, especially for beginners. You know, if the guitar's like down here, okay, especially the sign that you're doing things really wrong is if your arm is resting on your leg like this. Okay, that's the big no-no. Okay, guitar should be elevated, and that helps you keep your wrist straight. Okay, like when we're playing chords, um, the chords become harder to do what we need them to do the lower the guitar gets, right? Can keep our wrist straighter, get our fingers arched and in a good position to get our chords sounding nice. Okay, so uh, the scales, memorize those first three, and once they're memorized, try doing the alternate picking. Play with the metronome or the example recording, or both is good. Um, and yeah, thumb is up here, and then you want your grip to be pretty close, right? So this is like up close, and then here there's a space between here and here always. Never close this all the way. And that lets us arch our fingers the way we need to and to reach the frets the way we need to. Um, and especially with the chords, it's important because as our grip gets down here, our chords get worse and worse. All right, so that's a good time to review all the technique stuff. All right, and the scale is a really good time to practice all the technique. Make sure I'm holding the pick right. I got my arm in the right position. My left hand is a close grip with my finger arched. I don't want to play any of the notes like this. Okay. You know, you see. No. We want to be up on the tips of our fingers like this with our finger arched, and don't let the finger do this. Okay? This is a good time to develop control where we can focus on each finger, you know, the index finger, the middle finger, the ring finger, the pinky. Okay? So that's a good little review. The second thing, besides the scales, is you should have all the chords for those three songs memorized. Knocking on Heaven's Door, Stand By Me, and Brown Eyed Girl, which is G, D, A minor, C, E minor, and D7. D7 is the new chord from Brown Eyed Girl. And that's basically it. And you shouldn't have to look at your chord chart to find the chords. And we should be getting, if not to be able to switch in time with the example recording or the original recording, um, the chord switches should be very, very, very close to being in time. Okay? And we talked about a chord switching exercise, which is a really good exercise. So like, let's do G and D. So you come down on G, ready, and up on the open strings, down on D, ready, and up on the open strings, down on G, ready, up on the open strings, down on D, ready, up on the open strings. Okay? Okay, or we could change that to C. Let's do G and C and G and C and okay. And then the thing we talked about last time is this ring finger first switching, okay? Which, as we talked about, you know, the way we normally learn the chords in the beginning is we look at the chord chart and then we go, okay, the first finger goes here, the second finger goes here, the third finger goes here, okay, check it, okay, make make some adjustments, and then finally, all right, and then that's my chord. Okay, but what we're trying to get to is where we're switching, you know, where all the fingers move simultaneously to where they need to go to get to the next chord. And a really good way to do that is the ring finger first switching, which reverses the order that you would normally place the fingers. Okay, and normally the problem with the switching is this finger, because these fingers are much more agile and stronger, and this finger is a clumsy finger. Okay, so let's start with G. All right, and then we're going to go to C. And when we go to C, instead of taking the chord off and then going 1, 2, 3, we're going to take the chord off, and then we're going to put our ring finger down first and get it in a good position, and then the other fingers. Alright, so G, down, up on the open strings, ring finger first. C, up on the open strings, ring finger first. Up, ring finger first. Okay. Now, when you do this exercise for the first time, it's going to feel like you're slowing things down a little bit, but in the long run, it's going to speed things up by a lot. Because what happens is when that ring finger like comes off the string and goes straight to where it needs to go, normally what happens is the other fingers kind of fall in behind it, because like I said, these fingers are stronger and they tend to know what to do a little bit better than that other finger. So, which is, we're going from here to here. You see, here to here. All right, G, ready? Down, off, ring finger first. Down, off, ring finger first. Okay, let's do D now. So we're gonna go G to D. Okay, this is even easier, right? Because the ring finger just goes from here to here. Okay, G, ready? And G, off, D, off, G, off, D, off. Okay, so if you practice that, we don't have that many chords that we have to remember. And the ring finger first switching, that's going to help get you to where you can make the chord switches in time. And, you know, maybe at a slower speed. So, like Brown Eyed Girl, for example, Get Strong. And then if you can get to the chord like that, point is that you do it without stopping. That's the goal. You need to be focused on that goal and trying to work on that every day, and doing the chord switching exercise every day and working towards that goal. All right. And then the other thing when we memorize the chord is we have to memorize how many strings to put into each chord. Okay, which you know, the whole idea between that, all right, is that, let's take E minor for example. All right, so with E minor, the lowest note in that chord is E. Okay, so we know this is the E string, so that makes sense. E, and then the lowest note in the chord we want is E. And that's why we strum all 6 strings on that one. Okay, A minor, right? We don't want E as the lowest note. What we want for A minor is A is the lowest note. So that's the reason why we don't hit this string. We hit only 5 strings because we want A. This is the A string. See? So now we have A as the lowest note in the chord, which we call that the root or the bass note. Okay, the lowest note in the chord. Then D, all right, guess what? D is the lowest note. Okay, this is the D string. We don't want to put A in the bass or E in the bass. We want D in the bass. That's why this one we only do 4 strings. Okay. So those are the chords where we use the open strings, right? Or D7 is the same thing. We want D also, okay? Um, the other ones, that's a little trickier because, right, we know these open strings, but we haven't learned like the other notes on our guitar. Well, we sort of have in a way, like C, for example, right? Well, we want C in the bass. Well, which note is C? Well, it's this one that we have our ring finger on. And the way that we know that is because when we play the C major scale, that's the note we start on, okay? And the scales always start on the note that's in the title of the scale. So C major starts on C, G major starts on G, okay? So when we put a G in the bass, all right, or later when we learn this chord, we get F. We haven't learned that chord yet, but C, G, F. All right. So that, helps us to understand a little bit about why, we're strumming just 4 strings or just 5 strings or we're doing all 6 strings. And that can help so that it's not just a thing that you have to do brute force memorization on. Okay? So chord switching. And then the other thing that you want to be able to do is make sure that you can play Ode to Joy, Amazing Grace, and Aloha Oi with the example recordings at the normal speed, right? We want to make sure that that is really solid, that we are understanding our basic rhythms and picking and following the repeat signs and the endings, okay? Um, because what we're going to do next is we're going to go back to Ode to Joy and we're going to add a layer of complexity to it. So this is why I want to review this at this point and make sure you're aware of like where you should be at this point. So 3 scales memorized, trying the cross picking, play with the metronome or the example recordings or both. Okay, have your chords memorized, be doing the ring finger first chord switching exercise. And we should be either really close to switching in time without stopping the strum pattern, or be on there, playing continuously with chords switching in time with the example recording or original recording, and to be able to have all of those chords memorized and how many strings to play in each chord, to have our basic technique for the left hand and right hand and the way to hold the guitar happening really solid, and finally Ode to Joy, Amazing Grace, and Aloha Oi, be able to play those without too much difficulty with those example recordings. Okay? And if we're not there, you know kind of what you should be working on and what goals you should be working towards. Okay? This is why we need to practice every day, because it's very difficult to kind of get your chords switching in time without having practiced, each and every day for at least 20 to 30 minutes. And hopefully, as you get better, you'll want to practice more and more, because you're getting into it and able to actually play something with some decent proficiency. Okay? So, 2-part harmony. So let's take a look at this Ode to Joy harmony thing, and you'll notice now instead of just one note, we have 2 notes for each thing. All right, and when we stack the notes up vertically like this, that means that we're playing them at the same time. So if I were to just play the note on top, I get what we've already done, which is the melody. So, now I'm just playing the note that's on the top, which is the thing that we've done already. So what we're adding is a lower note to that. Okay? So let's put the pick away. All right, and this is the first one that we're gonna learn to do with our fingers. All right, so let me show you how to do this. First thing is the B string, fret 1, okay, and the other note is an open string. E string, open, and put your thumb on the B string and put your index finger on the E string and pinch the notes together like that. Alright, so one of the first rules of fingerstyle guitar is never cross the thumb underneath the finger like this. So, and that has to do with the angle. So if your angle is like this and the thumb is crossing over, that's bad. You want the thumb to stay on top of that finger, and you want the finger coming more or less like directly up like that. You only need to hit that with the tip of your finger, right? You don't need to get your finger underneath the string too much. It's just the tip of the finger, and then the thumb stays on top of that finger and never goes underneath. All right? The pinch. This is the pinch. We're pinching the strings together. Okay? So you do that twice, and then the next note, we put our index finger on the E string, fret 1, and the ring finger goes on the B string, fret 3. Okay? So normally, when we're reaching across a fret like this, we're going to skip this finger, right? So this makes it something that's more comfortable. Okay, the thing you don't want to do is you don't want to try reaching over there with the middle finger. We want to skip that finger and use the ring finger. Okay, if we're playing like on consecutive frets like these chords, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, we use consecutive fingers, right? So that in that situation, what you don't want to do is skip a finger. You want to use one finger and then the next finger, okay? But when it's skipping over a fret, you skip over a finger like this. And that makes it so that it's more comfortable, okay? But also it's more likely to sound good. This way is much less likely to sound good. And it also creates a more tense hand position and a more difficult thing to hold. There are definitely, you'll have opportunities to do things where you stretch the fingers a lot, you know. Okay, but we like to kind of reserve that for when it's necessary to do. Okay, so 1 and 0, and then 3 and 1 like this. And then the next one, we invert that. So the 1 goes on the B string and the 3 goes on the E string. Okay? And then all you do here is take the first finger off. It really helps when one of the notes is a 0. That makes it much easier. Okay? Index finger on E1. Ready? And so far we're only doing the E string and the A string. Next one is the same chord that we started with. Ready? And alright. Now we're going to change strings. So what you want to do here is slide your first finger over to 3 and then put your middle finger on 4 like this. And it's the first finger is on the B string and the middle finger is on the G string. And then of course you want to move your fingers over so that you're pinching those two strings together. Okay, and it tells you up here which fingers to use. This means the middle finger is on the lower note and the first finger is on the higher note. You see my middle finger, the note is lower, and then the note gets higher. Okay, middle finger on the lower note, first finger on the higher note. Okay, and there's a good reason for why we do that, because first of all, these are our strong fingers, easier to use those two fingers, and then our next chord, all we have to do is just slide down. So we don't take our fingers off the strings, we just slide the finger across the string until it's in the 1 and 2 fret position. Okay, really easy. So you're, by doing the right fingering there, you're setting yourself up for an easy switch. Okay, so this chord twice. Ready, and okay, and then 3 on the B string and 0 on the G string. Okay, and remember, always leave that thumb on top of the index finger and never cross it over. Okay, and then here we are, 1 on the B string and 0 on the A string, the E string, which is the chord that we started on. Twice. Ready? And then this chord twice. B3 and G0 together. Ready? And okay, now you'll see a lot of these chords are repetitive, right? We see this chord a lot, we see this chord a lot. The second line is virtually the same thing again. So back to the first chord, B1 and E0. Ready? And 2 times. Okay, make sure that you can hear 2 notes clearly, okay? So the problem is when your finger droops and you mute the string underneath, okay? So this is just like when we learn a chord and we want to make sure that we can hear every note in the chord clearly, except this way it should be a little bit easier because it's just the 2 notes. Okay, then the next one, this one is a little bit harder, E1 and B3. You have to really arch your fingers, okay? So it's usually the difference between this and this, right? So this sounds bad, and then that sounds good, all right? So if that finger just moves a little bit, it will mute the string underneath, okay? So you want to get your fingers arched. Alright, make sure you keep that close grip with the thumb up here, right? Don't try and like get out here, because normally, for one thing, now my wrist is bent. That's not good. We want the wrist to be straighter, and that's all we need. Alright, and then we invert that, so we move the ring finger to the E string and the index finger to the B string. And we take the first finger off. Ready? And then E1 and B0. Ready? And then that inverts. We're back to the first chord. Ready? Or, I mean, it's the same as the first chord that you play. And then we slide over B3 and G4, like so. Ready? And then all we have to do is slide down 2 frets. Don't take your fingers off the strings. We do that one twice. Ready? And then this one, G0 and B3, which we've seen this before. Just make sure you pluck the right 2 strings together. And then B1 and E0. Okay, ready? And alright. And then B3 and G0. Ready? And then B1 and G0. Ready? Twice. Okay, so we've raised the difficulty by a lot. Much more difficult to play 2 notes together than just 1 note. 1 note after 1 note after another note. But yeah, I mean, this gets really boring after a while, right? There's just not enough material to make it interesting, okay? So this is much more interesting. Okay, especially when we speed it up a little bit. And the rules for the fingering here is really simple. Like if you skip a fret, skip a finger. If you play on consecutive frets, use consecutive fingers. That's a rule for harmony that applies very broadly. Okay, this is normally not a good idea. Okay, skip a finger. So we go to line 3, and things get even more interesting. The notes spread out, so we have a lower note and a higher note. So like a bass part and a melody part. All right, now in this case, even though we're on consecutive frets, we don't want to use consecutive fingers because this is a little bit uncomfortable to hold. Okay, what we want to do is like this. So this tells you index finger on the low note and ring finger on the high note. You could also do it like this. And if you want to know why the fingering is like that, try it this way, and that makes things much less comfortable. Okay, because even though they're on consecutive frets, they're still kind of far apart because they're on a much lower string and a much higher string. Okay, and it's kind of like this G chord, right? We have the G chord in that configuration, and we want this to be in the same configuration. Okay, so make sure your thumb is on the same string as your index finger, and your index finger is on the same string as your ring finger here, and play it twice. Okay. Next one, ring finger on 3 and a 0 on the E string. So A3 and E0. Ready? And like I said, much easier when one of the notes is an open string. And then this is B1 and A0. Ready? And okay. And then the chords really repeat from that point. The chord and the chord pattern. So we're back to this first chord again. All right. Ready? And then we have 2 single notes. It's good to do those with your index finger rather than your thumb, because the thumb is going to kind of stay in this position to get ready to play this next note. So 0, 1 with the finger, and then 3 and 0 again. Just got to make sure you're playing the right strings, and then 1 and 0, and then we're back to this first chord again. Ready? And single notes with the finger. 0, 1, and then we got 2 E strings open. Okay, E0 and E0. Okay, a single note here. Play it with the finger to keep the thumb in a good position, and then A0 and B1. Ready? And then D0 and B3. Ready? And then A2 and G0. Ready? And okay, so the difficulty here is making sure that your 2 fingers over here are plucking the right 2 strings together. This is something new that we haven't done before yet. And then we have this chord, A3 and then E0. Ready? That gets held over. It's tied here. And then the next thing we do is the same chord again. And then here we have E1 and D0. Ready? And then this chord looks like that first chord, and we're doing it with the same fingers, except instead of on these 2 strings, it's on the 2 higher strings. So D2 and E3. Okay? Don't get confused there, because it looks like that chord is coming back, but they're on different strings now. Okay, here we leave this note where it is, and then here we just change fingers to the middle finger, and we have a 3 on the D string and a 3 on the E string. Ready, and okay, and then 1 on the E string and 2 on the G string. Okay, I'm trying to go real slow so you can follow along and keep up. If not, you can always, don't forget, you can always pause the video and then press play if you need more time. And then G0 and E0. Really easy. When we have 2 zeros, that's really easy. Just got to make sure you pluck the right 2 strings together. And then 3 on the D string and 3 on the B string, and middle finger, ring finger, like this. Okay? So, and it tells you, it's always recommending fingerings up here. Middle finger on the low note, ring finger on the high note. Okay? If you want to know why, try to reverse that, and it's very weird and awkward. Okay? And then this one on the B string and 2 on the D string, twice. Ready, and then we go back to this chord. The middle finger goes over to 3 and the ring finger goes on the other 3. Ready, and then 2 zeros, and then 3 on the D string and 3 on the B string. Middle finger on the low note, ring finger on the high note. Ready, and then we have a single note here, and then the chord C, and it tells you it's a C. Okay, and if you look, this is what the chord looks like when it's tabbed out. The notes are stacked up vertically like this. We have a 3 on the A string, a 2 on the D string, 0 on the G. Okay, there's nothing on G, and then a 1 here on the B string. Okay, and there's 2 ways to do this. First way is we strum it with the thumb, and then we stop the thumb on the E string. Okay, this is a very important technique called the rest strum. Okay, and that's the best way to strum just 4 strings without including that E string on the top, right? And you just stop the thumb on that string and really lean against it like that, right? That's a really good precision technique like that, okay? Then there's another way. You put the thumb on the A string, index finger on the D string, like we're going to pinch them together like we've been doing, but then the middle finger goes on the G string and the ring finger goes on the B string. So we have the fingers lined up: thumb, index, middle, ring. They're all on a different string, and then you just pluck them all together. Alright, so both techniques are really important. This technique is really good because later we'll do picking patterns like this. Fingers, thumb, and this just happens to be where they're all together. Alright, now when you're doing this, you want your fingers to kind of be locked together like this, right? You don't want them spread apart. Okay, this way I can like lock the fingers together and then they can just go onto the strings. Remember, it's just the tips of your fingers. You don't need to get like underneath the strings like this. Now my fingers are stuck in the strings. So like this, with the fingers together, not spread apart, and then thumb stays on top, never goes underneath. Okay, so rest strum with the thumb resting on the E string, or 1 finger per string, and plucking the notes together. Alright, so that part gets really interesting. follow those recommended fingerings there, because that makes it go a lot smoother when you start trying to speed things up, and prevents you from doing awkward things like this or like this. And you'll feel it when it feels awkward. You'll go, what am I doing wrong? Why is this so hard? Try and look at what the recommended fingerings are. Okay, so we've taken something that's quite boring, or if you play it enough times like this with the single notes, eventually you'll be like, I just do not want to hear this again. Okay, so harmony is what makes it sound cool. So I hope you'll have fun with that, because you're the one that has to listen to yourself practicing, and it's good when you can start playing things that are more and more interesting, because it's more entertaining for yourself, and hopefully as you level up and progress through the levels, the things that you'll be playing sound more interesting. You play them with more and more proficiency, and then that's the thing that will make you want to practice more and more and more, right? Because you're having more fun, you're hearing things that are interesting with layers of complexity. Okay? Um, we can add more layers of complexity. Let's see. Later we'll do something that's more like, let's see. I was just kind of winging that there, but that's a Ode to Joy that has even more layers of complexity with a picking pattern and everything. Um, so, but this is the start, just adding one more note, okay? And we call this two-part harmony because each note is only two notes and no more. Okay, so let's do the next thing, which is the Brown Eyed Girl intro, all right, which is also in two-part harmony. And this is a very famous riff, okay? It sounds like this. Okay, and when you hear that at the beginning of the song, everybody knows what's coming, what the song is going to be. So this is also two-part harmony, and let's learn it. Now, what you're going to think is, wow, that looks hard, and you're going to be intimidated by that. But once we go through it, what you're going to see is that this is a repeating pattern, and it becomes very repetitive. All right. Um, and we're only playing on those two strings, the E string and the G string. All right, let's play the first note, which is a 3 on the E string and a 4 on the G string, like so. So the B string is between that. E string, G string, 3, 4. And we're on consecutive frets here, so we're going to use consecutive fingers. And it tells you up here which fingers to use. One index finger on the higher note, middle finger on the lower note. So on this one, we don't have time to do this with the fingers and then pick up our pick and start strumming. We have to go straight from the intro into the strumming. So what we do here is, instead of pinching them together like this, we pinch them together like this. So the pick goes on the G string, okay, and then the middle finger goes on the E string, and you pinch the notes together like this, okay. Do that several times just to get the hang of that, okay. The pick pinch, and this is a useful technique. Anyway, and then the next note is a 5 on the G string and a 5 on the E string, and you're going to switch your fingers so that it's the ring finger and not the first finger, okay. And if you want to know why, try doing it with that first finger, and it's just a very awkward thing. It doesn't fit with this hand position, okay. And as we move up through the frets on the fingerboard, what you don't want to do is change hand positions, right? A lot of times when people sort of start reaching for the higher frets, they do a thing where they come off of their hand position and start trying to do this, but you shouldn't do that. The same hand position that we talked about with the thumb up here, close grip, and a space between here and here applies all the way up as we move up through the frets, okay? So first chord, 3 on the E string, 4 on the G string, pick on the G string, middle finger on the E string. Ready? And okay, and then the middle finger just slides up, and then the ring finger comes down so that we're on 5 on the G string and 5 on the E string. Okay, ready? And then here's the easy part. You just slide this up 2 more frets. So now we're here 7 and 7 like that. And then we slide back down to 5 and 5. Ready? And so that's the easy part. And then we go back to this first chord that we played, the 3 on the E string and the middle finger on the G string on fret 4. Okay? And play. Now, if you do that right, you'll notice that the middle finger just never comes off the string, right? It just slides along like this. You see? And that's just a very slidey kind of riff, right? So it's not, you don't want to like take your fingers off and do this. You just want to slide from chord to chord. All right? And that's another reason like why we don't do the chord this way. You see, because it's easier just to slide that middle finger along the string. Okay, so let's try that again. All right, 3 and 4, ready, and slide the middle finger up, put the ring finger on the other 5, ready, and slide up 2 frets, ready, slide down 2 frets, ready, and then slide back to 4, and then change fingers back to the index finger. Ready? And okay. And that's the pattern. All right. So the next thing is we go up to here, and what you want to do is just take this and slide up. But don't take your fingers off the strings, and you just slide up until you're on 8 and 9. All right. And as we get higher up into the higher frets, again, don't change your hand position, all right, and refer to these markers on your on your guitar. Mine has dots up here. This is 3, 5, 7, 9, 12. Okay, the double dot is 12. So 2 dots on 12. And some people have different markers. Some of you might not have one on 3. Okay, see I have a dot up here, but no dot down here. And so your dots might be 5, 7, 9. Okay, or some guitars even, they only have a dot on 7. Those are usually the 12 fret guitars, so the 12th fret will be like the last fret. You see my guitar has 14 frets until you get over the body of the guitar, but some guitars only have 12 frets, and those guitars sometimes only mark the 7th fret, and the 12th fret is marked just by being the last fret. Okay, so refer to those dots, right, so that you don't have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I just go, oh, here's 7, here's the 7th fret dot, and here's the 9th fret dot, and those are the reference points. Okay, but again, the point is don't take your fingers off, just slide up, and that's how you get to this chord. 8 and 9. Ready, and alright, now we're going to do the same pattern up here. So you slide the middle finger up, we're on 10, and everything is the same except just plus 5 frets. Ring finger goes on the other 10, okay? Ready, and then here's the easy part, just slide up to 12. Again, 12 is a really conspicuous fret. It has 2 dots on it. Easy to aim for that. And then back to 10, and then back to 8 and 9. Okay, the middle finger stays on the strings, and you switch between the first finger and the third finger, the index finger and the ring finger. Okay, a good thing to practice for this is if you just go back and forth. Okay, once we get to the end of there, we go to the third measure, which is exactly the same as the first measure, thankfully. And just slide down until you're back in the 3rd fret and 4th fret position. Alright, ready, and then the middle finger slides up to 5, the ring finger goes on the other 5. Ready, and then all we have to do is slide up 2 frets. Ready, and slide back to 5, and slide back to 3 and 4. Ready, and okay, and then the 4th measure is a little different. The first finger slides up to 5, and this is where the middle finger comes off that string for the first time. This is a 5 and a 7 with this finger. Ready, and okay, and then we hit single notes here with the ring finger, and then the pinky, and then the first finger. Okay, and if you'll notice, I can reach all those notes just by staying in this position right here. Okay, so again, positional playing, helping us with efficiency of motion and just helping us to be more precise and consistent. Okay, let's go back and do this one more time. Everything else is pretty much the same, except there's this one more riff down here that we'll talk about. It's very similar to this riff that we're doing. Okay, back to the beginning, 3 and 4. All right, now one thing you'll want to work on is, like, when you're doing this pinch, you want to get to where you're kind of applying, you know, I wouldn't say equal pressure because the pick and the finger is a little bit different, right? So, but what you're looking for is where you're hearing the notes equally. And it's just a thing you have to practice and work on. And you want to hear 2 notes very clearly, all right? So there's the first chord, ready? Middle finger slides up, ring finger comes down on the other 5. Ready? Slide up to 7, back to 5, back to 3 and 4. Ready? And okay. Now the rhythm here, if you look at your rhythm chart, what you'll see is that this symbol means 8th rest. So it's an 8th note rest. So that means these are all 8th notes until you get to this quarter note here. So the way you count this is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and what that means is that there's nothing happening on 2 and 3. So 1 and rest on 2 and rest on 3 and 4. This has to be 4 because it's a quarter note and it's the last note in the measure. Okay? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, which means that these two are close together and these two are close together. And then there's a space between here and here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay? Let's do that very slowly and see if you can do it. Alright? If not, it's okay. You'll work on it and you'll get better at it. Very slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, let's slide up to 8 and 9 and do the same thing. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then back to measure 3, which we do the same thing as measure 1. Ready? 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we go up to 5 and 7. And this is like the Ode to Joy and Amazing Grace, Aloha Oi. Every one of those songs has this rhythm, the dotted quarter note and the 8th note. And that one goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and nothing happens on 3 because the note is tied there. Okay, so this one we count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and let's try that. Ready? 5 and 7, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and like so. And then as you get better at that, you can count faster. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, and then the chords, which we learned last time, and we learned all about the strum pattern as well as the repeats, multi-repeat, the different parts of the song, intro, verse, chorus, coda, first ending, second ending, and then we have this thing, the multi-rest and the DSL coda. We went over all of that, and if you play along with the example recording, you'll see that you'll find out whether you're missing any of those repeats or endings or form direction symbols. Okay, and then the only thing we're adding here is this riff. All right, and you'll hear this riff played at a couple points in the song. It can be played over any of the D chords, actually. D7 or D, it doesn't matter. But you hear it most clearly and plainly right here at the first ending of the chorus. All right, and it goes like this. You go 10 and 11, Again, fret 12 is a good marker here, the double dot. So your middle finger's on 11 and your first finger's on 10. All right, and you do that one twice with the pick pinch. Ready? Okay. Ready, and then all you do is slide down 2 frets. This is the next chord, 8 and 9. Ready, and okay. And then you slide down 2 frets, except you switch from your first finger to your ring finger. So now we're on this 7 and 7. Okay, you play that, and then you slide down 2 more frets to 5 and 5. And then the next thing that comes is G. So it's sandwiched between G chords. So you have a G chord, and then the riff, and then the repeat sign takes you back to here, which is another G chord. Okay? So it's like this. G. Okay, so 10 and 11. Alright. 10 is on the E string, 11 is on the G string, index finger, middle finger. Alright. Pay attention to this double dot. That's your what you're looking at, your reference point for where you're at on the guitar. Alright. Now, the only thing that's different about what we just did is actually there's one more thing, which is these slash marks here. If you see the slash marks, and what that means is slide. Slashes are slides on guitar. So the way you do that is you go down like 1 or 2 or 3 frets, it doesn't really matter, and you play the note down there lower, and you slide up to 10 and 11. Alright, now it's kind of hard to do that with 2 notes at first, so just try it with 1 note. Let's slide from 8 to 10. Alright, so 8 with the index finger. Okay, and all you have to do is keep pressing down on the string as you slide it. If you let off the pressure on the string at all, the note will just disappear. So practice that, or you can slide from 9 to 10 or 7 to 10. And all you have to do is land on 10 and keep pressing down on the string. Okay? Your finger is probably getting a little bit sore now at this point. So try just one string first, and now let's try both of them. So let's do 8 and 9 to 10 and 11. Okay? 8 and 9. Ready? And you just have to keep pressing down. You can do it slowly. So I'm sliding up, right? But I'm also pressing in. So I'm sort of like pressing in like this direction, you know? Okay? And it's just a thing. Last time we learned about the hammer-on. That's one kind of slur, and the slide is another kind of slur. Alright, so that first slide counts as this note. So you slide into that one, and then you just play it one more time like this. Now, this slide is actually really useful because it actually helps us to get up there, right? Because we're on G. And then we can use the slide to actually get up to there. And all you have to do is land on those particular 2 frets. Okay, if you overshoot it or undershoot it, it won't make that sound. Okay. Add that to the chorus, it sounds like this. Chorus. Okay. So I hope that you'll have fun with all that. We're doing two-part harmony now. Much more interesting, and this is a very interesting riff, Brown-Eyed Girl riff. And I think you'll have fun doing that, and you'll get better in the process, because both of those things are really good exercises to kind of get you going to the next level a little bit more. Okay, and I hope that you have fun with that, and I'll see you in the next lesson video. Mahalo.